This episode of the Alpha Nerds podcast brought to you by Sponch. You are what you eat, so you better eat some Sponch.
Welcome to the Alpha Nerds podcast, the podcast that's finally fixed its audio issues. I'm Bart.
And I'm Pete.
And every week we talk about a TV show, movie that starts with one letter of the alphabet. This week's is I. Indigo, Igloos, Iberia, Insane Clown Posse. Indecision, Indefunk.
Indifferent, Indecision, Invictus.
I think I played that game. No, that wasn't the game. The game was Vindictus.
Ah.
Yeah, that game was terrible. Korean MMO. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Hi, folks. So every week we have a few honorable mentions. This week, Pete will kick us off. Pete, what do you got for us?
Well, this week I got Ink, spelled I-N-Q-U-E. She's a villain from the Batman Beyond universe, and she basically just takes the form of ink.
Yeah,
she's just made of ink.
She's kind of like your Clayface because she still has that weakness to cold.
Yeah.
And she can shapeshift and stuff like that. She was a really cool character. I liked her. I liked the fact that she had a daughter. She had a family outside of she wasn't
being
just I'm
a
the
monstrous
devil.
supervillain. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I've got Iron Man, both the Black Sabbath song and the comic book character.
I love that they had to write the Black Sabbath song so that it actually didn't have anything to do with the comic character, but that's totally what it was based on.
Right. I've got Iron Maiden.
Love some Iron Maiden.
Both the band and the torture device.
Maybe not the torture device, but yeah, band. I'm down with the band. Maybe not so much the... You know, it was actually not a real torture device.
Really?
Yeah, it wasn't actually a real thing. It was made up years afterwards.
Huh.
Yeah.
Go figure. Anyway, Infamous Second Son, which was the only installment of the Infamous series that I played because I didn't have a PS3 and they won't port it to the PS4, but still a lot of fun.
Yeah, I liked, I never played any of the Infamouses, but they're made by a company called Sucker Punch, who are the same people who made the Sly Cooper games. And Sly Cooper 1 is one of my favorite games in the world, and Sly Cooper 2 and 3 are not.
Yeah.
Sly Cooper 1's really good. Sly Cooper 2 and 3 are not. I would like to make that very clear, since we won't be talking about Sly Cooper when we get to S. Sly Cooper 2 and 3 are terrible, terrible games.
And lastly, I have Il Postino, which is a very artsy sort of drama Italian film. And
wait, that's The Postman, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, yeah. I was about to say Il Postino. I know I've heard that before, but it's not a clown. It's not a dead guy. It's and then I'm like, wait a minute, that's Kevin Costner. But I imagine less Kevin Costner in the Italian one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't like the Kevin Costner movie.
Okay.
It's supposedly a very artsy, very very thoughtful film, and I remember sitting down to watch it in school, and then I passed the fuck out. I don't remember any of it.
That's awesome.
So, if my 6th grade English teacher is hearing this, I'm sorry.
I don't think she is. Did it still take place in the apocalypse, or was that something that got lost in Dreamland?
No, that doesn't... That's not part of it either.
Okay.
It's kind of about relationships.
No. Yeah, it definitely seems like a thing you shouldn't watch in 6th grade. So, my honorable mentions. First off, we have Iron Eagle, just to finish my trilogy of soundtrack by Queen. Although they didn't do the full soundtrack, Queen only did the opening song for it.
Trivia about Iron Eagle. What fictional piece of fiction was inspired / an exact copy of Iron Eagle?
What the heck are you talking? No, I have no idea. What?
In Family Guy, Brian Griffin wrote a book called Faster Than the Speed of Love, which was the exact same plot as Iron Eagle. And then Lois rips into him because he describes the story, and she's like, "That's the movie Iron Eagle."
Yeah, I was thinking about a situation where like a guy like is in this job and he's been like doing the job for years, and then he makes a like robot to like take over for him, and the robot would take his place, and then slowly the robot destroys like the company or whatever it is, and then the guy has to like come back and stop the robot. And in doing this, I'm like, wait, that's Santa Claus 2. That's a Tim Allen movie. That's not.
It wasn't even that good.
No, it wasn't. Next up on my list is the Iliad.
Nice.
Which I loved Greek mythology when I was a kid. Like, I read just like books and books of it, because the Greeks had great mythology. They were just a bunch of like drunken heathens.
Dude, they were great, and I love the stories that kind of like happened around the same time and place as another story.
Yeah,
because it would be like, oh hey, and there those people are sacrificing somebody to a kraken.
Wonder if that has anything to do. Yeah,
and then it's like, meanwhile, at the kraken sacrifice.
Yeah, that's kind of how it happens. Well, the Iliad actually takes place right before the Odyssey, which is Homer's much more famous story.
Yes.
Even though the Iliad is the much better one.
Yeah.
Because the Iliad is basically just war between two cities. You have Achilles and the Greeks, and then you have Hector and the Trojans. And then it becomes, because Paris steals a girl, all this stuff. But like, you can see the actual war that actually took place beneath this. The Odyssey is the crazy story Odysseus told his wife. Is like, why'd you take so long to come back? So, first off,
don't get me started on what I had to do to get back here.
I had to blind a guy. You had to blind just like one guy? He was a Cyclops. And that made the ship slower. How? Who is the son of the Sea King? Yeah, that's what happened. Yeah.
Listen, I had half my men turned into pigs. So, maybe give me a break. I just got home, and you didn't recognize me, so you can go fuck yourself.
Well, he put on a beard. But one...
Oh, a beard.
One take on the Iliad I really liked was Troy. I don't know who directed that movie. But I love the fight scene between Ajax and Hector. I love the fight scene between Hector and Achilles. And I love... spoilers, by the way, for Troy. When Achilles dies, what happens is Paris just keeps shooting him with arrows while he's walking up. And, like, one of them nicks him in the ankle.
Yeah.
But he takes his sword and, like, knocks all the, like, shafts off the arrows. So you don't see any of that. All you see is when he finally, like, gives up the ghost and dies, you just see the arrow sticking out of his ankle. So yeah. It's one of those, like, coming full circle things. I really dug it.
That was cool.
After the Iliad, we have Inception, which was a fantastic movie by Christopher Nolan.
Hey!
See, okay, I will say it hasn't held up as well. Like, when I remember watching a video around the same time, it's like, will people be talking about Inception in 50 years? No, they won't. But I was like, oh, man, how are people not? But it's pretty good. Like, I still love it.
It's pretty good. I think it was like a little too... I feel like it was a cocky film. Like it tried to be all like, oh, look how clever I am. It was like if Andy Warhol was a movie.
Yeah, I can see that. I'd still dug it. Like it's one of those. I like the fact that the ending was kind of like, because that's what people are talking about, is like, do you think the top drops, stuff like that. But it was definitely a movie of its age, and like 10, 15 years from now, people are going to be like, do you remember that thing? Jeez. It's going to be like the less than zero of the modern era. Even though it came out in like 2009 or 10.
Yeah.
No, 11 it came out. Anyways, so Iggy Pop is my next one.
Nice.
Who is a punk rocker from New York, or I think he's from New York, who hung out with David Bowie in his like German era, which is the weirdest era of Bowie and one of the best ones.
Yeah.
Like, he was hanging out with David Bowie, just doing drugs, and they did it great in Venture Brothers, because David Bowie's character in Venture Brothers And Iggy Pop's there, and he like, I'm sick of you being the lead, and like tackles him and like takes him to the ground. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And my last one,
and he throws the ball at him, and he's like, and pop! And David Bowie's sitting there like, you're joking.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. That was pretty good. And my last one is Interstate Love Song, which is a song by Stone Temple Pilots. Now, Pete, do you remember why I like this song?
I don't know.
So Max Landis made a, like back in like 2013 or something, Max Landis made a video where he had a song stuck in his head and he kept calling his friends. He was trying to see if he could like get them to remember the song. Because he was trying to say like let's bring this back to the day, like where you can just Google lyrics. Like let's take this back to like when you just had to ask somebody, this is the lyrics I remember of the song, can you get it? And he had to call like 50 people or something like that to actually get the final answer.
Huh.
So I tried this experiment. So I had the
that
song.
was when we had that was when we were trying to figure out a song from like the opening guitar riff, wasn't it?
Nope, no, it was not.
No.
So I had this song stuck in my head, and then I called you up. I was like, hey, man, I have this song stuck in my head. I don't remember the words, and I don't remember the name of it, but I know it goes, bleeding on a Sunday afternoon, her blind eyes scared the road, bleeding. And you said, I have no idea what that is. Because Pete, like, for the folks at home, Pete's not the best at music. I freaking love music.
Yeah, I'm not musically inclined.
Like, I watched a lot of VH1 when I was a kid and a lot of MTV, so I like am familiar with like popular bands of the 70s, 80s, 90s, bit in the 60s. So nothing. So I call up my brother, and I go, bleeding on a Sunday afternoon, oh man, I skip away. And then both of us at the same time, and I, and I, he's like, yeah, that's Interstate Love Song by the Stone Temple Pilots. I'm like, thank you, Johnny. He knew it immediately because my brother is awesome at that. Like he's like, for some reason he just can do that. But I love that song because for that, like it was one of those, I tried to replicate something I saw online with completely different results.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's 5 for me. Pete, what are you gonna lead off us with?
Well, this week I'm going to talk about Injustice: Gods Among Us.
Ew.
Yes. Okay. So, basic origins of this whole idea. There have been, you know, ideas and iterations for an evil Justice League as far back as the creation of the Justice League.
Pause. Before you do that, what is Injustice?
Well, it's a comic book series. It's a video game series.
Okay, go.
Okay.
I just had to, like, before anybody stops, it's a video game series that later got made into a comic book series.
Yeah. So, you're probably thinking, if you haven't read the comic book series, you're probably thinking what I was thinking when I first saw it on the shelves. And I'm like, oh my god, they're making another comic book based on a video game? This is going to be terrible. But then I opened it and like read a couple of pages and I was like, oh, this is a prequel.
Yeah.
And it's actually quite awesome. So right off the bat, there's like the idea of an evil universe goes back as far as science fiction goes. Like almost every intellectual property that has like a universe has an evil universe. Star Trek has an evil universe. South Park has an evil universe.
Which was a play on Star Trek because Trey Parker and Matt Stone are huge Star Trek fans.
Exactly. So yeah. And they've done like a lot of different iterations. So they've done the Justice Lords, which is a two-parter episode in Justice League where, you know, they just go to a different universe and it's like, oh, the Justice League is evil and they've basically conquered the world and they're imposing a tyrannical rule.
See, the one thing that got me about that universe was that it was dramatically offset in time. Like, oh yeah, this is like 2 years in the future, but it's a parallel universe. But it's not really parallel; it's an adjacent universe.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah. Anyway, so they did it with the Justice Lords. They did it with Flashpoint Paradox, and they've done it with Crisis on Two Earths. And basically, what they like doing best is killing Flash, because he is kind of he's kind of like the human part of the Justice League.
Yeah, he's the moral compass. Because
Yeah.
Batman's always like, we need to make the people safe. And Superman's always, we have to do what's absolutely right. And Flash is like, maybe we bend the rules a little bit. Just make this happen, you know?
And Wonder Woman's just sitting there like, I want to punch fuck boys in the face.
As do we all.
And, yeah.
So,
Don't we
Injustice.
all? So, yeah, starts off, well, so the pivotal point in Injustice Gods Among Us goes a little different than what previous iterations of this idea did, and they centered it around Superman. Not the death of Superman. Superman kills somebody. He kills the Joker
Yeah.
right in front of Batman.
Yeah, so opening scene of the game is like an interrogation room with Joker and Batman. Then Superman busts through a wall, and then I forget, how does he kill him?
He just puts his hand right through his chest.
Hardcore.
Like, up to his elbow, and it's coming out the other side. Now, they don't show this in the game, but they show it very vividly in the comic book. So, how did that happen? Well, the Joker kidnapped and implanted a device in a pregnant Lois Lane, and basically tethered that device via wireless link to an atomic bomb at the center of Metropolis, so that if Lois Lane died, then the bomb would go off. Then he modified the Scarecrow's fear toxin with his own patented Joker laughing gas, and basically hypnotized / drugged Superman into hallucinating that Lois Lane was his arch nemesis Doomsday. And so he kills Lois Lane,
I swear
who is pregnant with his unborn son.
I swear this happened differently in the game. I thought he just like set off the bomb, and then the bomb is what killed her.
Nope.
Okay, my mistake.
Got Superman to kill his own wife. And so when, Joker is taken in, Metropolis is a crater. It's a parking lot, and Batman has Joker in custody. Superman just BAM! Smashes through the wall and demands justice. And Batman's like, no, this isn't how we do it.
No, this is totally how we do this.
He's like, he knows that Superman's about to like do something he's gonna regret. It's like, listen, Clark, I know how you feel, because Batman's lost his parents right in front of him. Granted, he wasn't tricked into killing them, but he gets the idea of loss.
Yeah.
So he's just like, listen, this isn't like, don't do something you're gonna regret. And Superman is just like, he has snapped. He's like, you know what? I'm done with this. Every time we catch him, he breaks out. And every time he breaks out, hundreds, if not thousands of people die. And so it ends here. And then arm through the chest.
Which, to be fair, Superman makes a really good point. Like, come on now.
Now, this is where the idea of Injustice Gods Among Us takes like a philosophical twist, because this action drives kind of a wedge between Batman and Superman. Batman being like on the side of, we are not meant to impose our own rule or laws on the world. We're here to protect people,
right,
and work within the law. And Superman is basically saying, listen, we have all this power. So anybody who dies that didn't have to die is pretty much on us. Like, we're looking at a guy who can fly around the world so fast they can reverse the world's rotation and reverse time.
Yeah, and he sees that the system has failed because Metropolis is destroyed, so we need a new system.
Exactly.
We need a new god.
So, basically, kind of as the head honcho of the Justice League basically says, listen, how we've been running things isn't working. We need to stop stuff like this from ever happening again. So, they basically sort of impose their own martial law on the world. And immediately, this isn't sitting right with a lot of members of the Justice League. So, now we've got two factions. You know, there's some people who are with Superman, and there are some people who are with Batman. And
Superman's taken over the government at this point. He's basically king.
Yeah. You know, King Superman.
All hail Clark. Superman. All hail Clark. Please say Superman.
So the video game kicks off where in the regular Earth they basically invent a way to Batman basically makes a portal to an alternate Earth.
Well, first thing that happens is the remake of the last universe, Joker's about to set off a nuke. All the superheroes are running towards him, and then poof, they're magically in the dark universe.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so Batman is throwing like a sonic batarang. The Flash is running him in the Speed Force, and Superman is like coming in hard. Or no, Superman.
Wonder Woman and Green Lantern.
Wonder Woman and Green Lantern. So all these powers combine and just alternate Earth.
And Aquaman. Like, forgot that Aquaman's there.
That's right. Yeah. It's kind of easy to dismiss Aquaman, but this game makes him pretty freaking badass.
Yeah, dude. Like, Aquaman's finisher is epic.
Dude, it's insane. Okay, so anyway, so the game is made by
NetherRealm Studios.
And these are the same people who made Mortal Kombat. Now, if you're like me, you remember the game Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe,
which was awful because DC wouldn't let them do finishing moves that would kill a character.
Exactly. Now, this is the game that we should have gotten.
Yeah.
So, it only took like 6 years before this came out. Anyway.
But to be fair, the game NetherRealm made before this was the insanely successful Mortal Kombat 9, which is still regarded as one of the highest quality fighters out there.
Yes. And that one featured Freddy Krueger, which was very cool.
Yeah, it was.
Let's see. Back to the thing.
So we have all these heroes have been transported to the evil dimension where Superman's taken over the government. Wonder Woman's like not mating with Superman, but is like she's with him via a political alliance.
Yeah. So, yeah, Wonder Woman seeing the, no pun intended, injustices imposed on the entire female gender,
waka.
Yeah. Anyway, she sees how shitty we treat females on this planet. And she's not wrong. But, so she's in a Middle Eastern country, doesn't specify which one, and basically, like, I think it might have been that universe's, Syria. Maybe. Because there's a refugee camp, and it's basically being overrun by these militant, by this militant army that is basically holding everyone at gunpoint. She shows up, disarms everybody, makes all the would-be militant murderers, basically, put their hands in the air, and then she tells all the women to pick up their guns. And then everybody's like, what now? And then she flies away saying, like, now you figure it out, which is a really weird way to go about that.
Yeah, but, I mean, we're in the dark universe, so roll with it.
Yeah. But, I mean, come on. Anyway. The comic series is separated into years. So we have Injustice Year 1, Year 2, Year 3, Year 4, and right now Year 5. They do a decent job of doing this as a prequel by not showing how far back before the Injustice video game it takes place. So technically they could just keep making Injustice comic books forever, as long as, they tie up, like, why people aren't aging.
Yeah.
But
we have a solution for that.
Yeah, we don't know how many years the comic books occur before the video game. So,
well, one of the factors, or one of the things in the video game is, because the video game is a fighting game, makers of Mortal Kombat, what do you think, they're going to make a platformer? They stopped doing that after they made Batman and Robin for the Super NES. Anywho, so what they did was, to make it more realistic that a guy like Batman can take on Superman who can punch through concrete, there's a Superman pill that you can take.
Yes. So, Superman, using Kryptonian technology, developed a pill that would make any regular person as strong as Superman. Well, maybe not as strong.
As indestructible.
Definitely makes him a lot harder to kill. You're definitely bulletproof, at any rate.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when that gets invented, Batman's faction is like, we gotta get that fucking pill. If we can get the pill, we can analyze it in the Batcave, and we can figure out how to make our own, because if he gives that to all his guys, we're done. They know we're against them, and if they are all bulletproof, then they're just gonna march in and take all our shit and murder us. So, they send a small strike team in, and they succeed, but at some pretty heavy losses. Some very, okay, I don't want to spoil it, but it's heavy.
I actually don't remember this part of the game. I have played this game, by the way. So, wow.
Well, that actually occurs in the comic book.
Okay.
Okay. So, now, there are parts of the comic book that are really great. Some that are, amazingly human. And one of those is one of my favorite interactions, and it's between Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, and Harley Quinn. Now, Oliver Queen, who is on Batman's side, captures Harley Quinn, who is basically, post-relationship with Joker. She's done with him. I think in this universe, he's already... No, wait. Yeah, in this universe, he's already dead.
Yeah.
So, she's kind of like...
I hope she's over him, because he's under everything else.
Well,
except for Metropolis, that holds deeper.
Oh my god. That's terrible.
Waka waka.
So, she's kind of in that whole lost phase where, she's trying to figure out what to do from here. And, as somebody like Harley Quinn would, she kind of meditates on this while committing violent crimes. So, Green Arrow takes her down and brings her to what he calls the Arrow Cave. Now, she's basically slung over his shoulder, tied up and everything, and he's just walking her in, and she's like, "Where are we going?" And he's like, "I'm taking you to the Arrow Cave." And she's like, "That's the name of your hideout, the Arrow Cave." It's like, "Yeah, that's a stupid name. Word, what are you talking about? Batman has the Batcave? Yeah, and it makes sense because bats live in caves. Arrows don't live in a cave. Well, what would you call a hideout then? The Quiver! Damn, that's better.
Yeah, it is. Which they actually talk about this in a Green Arrow comic named Quiver. That was written by Kevin Smith.
Yes.
Because Batman's talking to him, it's Hal Jordan's talking to him. He's like, geez, did you just rip off everything with Batman back in the day? Arrow Cave? What are you doing?
Yes. So, yeah, that's a really awesome, like, little moment. And they revisit that when Black Canary, who works / bones with Green Arrow. Not sure if they're married yet in this, but they're definitely, like, seeing each other. Yeah. Anyway, they revisit that whole thing. They revisit that whole argument later, and basically to the same extent, where it's like, she says the Arrow Cave is a terrible name. Well, she's not wrong. What'd she suggest? She suggested the Quiver. Wow, that is actually better. So,
Anywho.
Now, there's a really awesome scene between Harley Quinn and who was it? Lobo?
Pale face, black hair.
Yes.
Yeah, Lobo.
Yeah, Lobo. Who is like a cosmic space biker bounty hunter.
He's the closest thing DC has to Deadpool.
Kind of. Except DC has Slade Wilson.
Yeah, but he doesn't act like Deadpool. The whole I'm aware that I'm in a comic book thing is more on Lobo's end.
So the comic book just, keeps leading up to the video game, and the video game shows basically how everything is sort of shaking out. Like, Superman has imposed his regime upon the Earth, and everything is just it's about as martial law dystopian as you can imagine.
Yeah, giant evil robots.
Tanks patrolling the streets, mandatory curfews, Superman's image posted everywhere. It's basically North Korea. Or what we imagine North Korea looks like.
With flying people, though I don't know how far Kim Jong-un's powers go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Trump keeps calling him Rocket Man, so
Gosh.
Who knows?
Oh, I just had a really weird image of the Rocketeer.
Right?
Go ahead.
Plus-size jumpsuit. Anyway. So we actually see a lot of people who were on Superman's side from the beginning, and they're starting to be like, this feels evil. Are we the evil people? Are we the bad guys?
Yeah.
Which shakes out I can't remember the show, but there was a British comedy thing where it showed Nazis in the trenches, and it's like, are we the bad guys?
We wear all black and skulls on our hat.
We wear skulls on our hats, though. Anyway.
Which Nazis are definitely the bad guys.
Yes.
They wear skulls on their hats, for Pete's sake.
So, Superman, not tolerating any questions whatsoever from anyone in his regime, basically shows that, no, he will not be second-guessed. And he shows this by killing Shazam. Brutally. Lasers through the skull.
Oh, yeah, that is how he kills Shazam. I was about to say, I saw somebody die in that game where you start seeing the glowing on the back of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be bad enough, except when you remember that Shazam is Billy Batson, who is 8.
Yep.
He's a child. Best case scenario, by then he's 16, but still.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of bad all around.
Yeah, it's terrible. The Flash has like a crisis of conscience where at first he was on Superman's side, where he's like, yes, absolutely, if we have the ability to stop things from happening, we shouldn't let stuff like international law stop us. So, this is a guy who can be around the world twice before you take a breath.
Hey, Pete, how's the Queen of England doing?
She's fine.
I love that bit.
Yeah. Let me go to China and see if there's a cure. Nope. You keep making me laugh with this shit.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, pause time for like a minute. Like, it is a podcast. We should be laughing and joking, because if we're not, then it's just explaining. You want to listen to the exposition hour? Because that's one of the worst things in the world.
Okay.
Go.
Keep that part in. So, yeah. And there's one part in the comic book that kind of sows this whole, seed of doubt in the Flash's mind. And that is when the regime basically first gets its start, and of course there are populations of the Earth that are like, we're not totally psyched about metahumans just kind of ruling us. We would like to, have equal representation. We would like to have somebody, specifically looking out for us in case you guys go a little batshit insane, which they do. So they start inventing, power suits. And the first power suit they make, the Flash basically, sees this and he's like, nuh-uh, and just wrecks it. Paralyzes the poor kid that's piloting it. Come to find out, he visits the kid's house, and there's Flash memorabilia all over his room. The Flash was his hero. He just wanted to be as awesome as the Flash. And he's just sitting here like, oh my god. Fuck.
Yeah.
So, the comic is just full of great moments like that. And it's just so well told.
Yeah, the comic, I'm actually surprised it's still going on. Because for a comic book to last, what would you say is a good solid, year count for a comic book?
Well, it depends on if they have, an ending in mind.
Well, ending in mind aside, let's take something like The Walking Dead, because most comic books just kind of go on forever. What's the size of a run where you're that run accomplished things? I'd say 3 years, 4 years. If you can have a straight 4-year gig as a comic book artist, that's pretty good.
Pretty much, yeah. 4 years is that's the equivalent of 100 episodes of a TV series.
Yeah. Because that's 48 issues, but that's pretty good.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically Injustice. I'm going to hand things over to Bart now. Bart, tell us about your thing.
So, my eye for this week is best show on TV ever, Iron Chef. Pete, what do you know about Iron Chef?
Well, I know that there was a Japanese version and an American version. Japanese version, the host takes a bite out of a pepper. American version, he takes a bite out of an apple.
Yep. So the Japanese version started in 1993, which is probably why it looks so jank now.
Yeah.
And they had a couple specials. The specials made it last out to 2002. So they went to... Iron Chef is one of, the hypest shows on TV. If you just want to be pumped about something, watch an episode of Iron Chef.
Yes.
Because it is just fast-paced. The guys, when they're talking, they're just going full out, 80 miles an hour. It is the origin of the competitive cooking show, because I really can't think of anything before this. The biggest cooking shows on TV before this were Julia Childs, who just cooked, and Emma Lagasse, who just cooked.
Yeah.
It wasn't that, chopped, we're going to give you a bunch of garbage in a basket. Cook for me, monkey. It is now. Origin of the competitive food show. It was made in Japan by Fuji TV, but not Akira Toriyama. I would love to see Akira Toriyama make an Iron Chef
oh
anime.
My god, it would be amazing.
So how the show works is that you have the story behind the show is that you have this guy called Chairman Kaga. Chairman Kaga is this extremely wealthy Japanese man who wanted to reach the height of cuisine in Japan. So he made this school called the Gourmet Academy. Right? Yeah, he made a school called the Gourmet Academy, and he stocked it with the best students he could find. And he picked 3 men, the Iron Chefs, to be the pinnacle of 3 different types of cuisine: Japanese, French, and Chinese. And how it worked back in the day, like very first season, how it worked was 2 competitors would face off against each other. The winner would then challenge an Iron Chef, which is the same setup for Beat Bobby Flay. Bobby Flay.
Bobby Flay.
Bobby Flay.
Bobby Flay.
Bobby Newport.
Dinkelberg.
So, gosh, man, I went on for a while there.
Yeah.
So, everything takes place in Kitchen Stadium. Like, they're making it like a whole event. So the first thing that happens in the credits is they're explaining all of this to you. It gets, like, the basic premise of the show gets told for you in the first, like, 5 minutes. And it's the same 5 minutes every single time.
Yes.
So you see Chairman Kaga, like, this big empty, like, kitchen studio. There's food everywhere. There's, like, lobsters and chickens and, like, all this, like, good food. And he walks out and he's looking upon it. And then he, like, reaches into a basket and takes a single yellow pepper. And then he, like, slowly takes a bite. And that bite sounds so good.
Oh my god,
crunches,
they Foleyed it so well.
Just, and then he
crunch.
He takes a bite, pauses, slowly smiles, and looks to his left, and then you see like the camera's on him, and the camera's slowly panning out, and now the room is full of like guys in like Italian chef outfits or French chef outfits because they have like the tall hats. Who have real names. I can't remember it.
Yeah.
Just slowly panning out, and it's like, yeah.
Togs.
There you go. And the music's going like, and the music's like, yeah. And then like the flames take over the screen. You see the big Japanese character who says Iron Chef in the top.
Iron Chefaru.
Oh, that's so bad, dude.
It really is, but whatever. Futurama did it worse.
So what happens is, the competitor will come in, the competitor will pick the competitor will talk to Chairman Kaga for a little bit, and it's always how he introduces the competitors. It's, if memory serves me right, the Kanagawa Hotel in Tokyo is the finest hotel in the region. And it's like, whoosh, its seafood is renowned far and wide for being of excellent quality. Its top chef, Kanahiro Sakamai, is now here to challenge one of our Iron Chefs. And it goes to that guy, and he doesn't have the good voiceover. He has Steve, and he's like, I think I'll be doing pretty good today. At least I hope I will. Your seafood skills are impeccable, but how will you last against the Iron Chefs?
Poor Steve has to go up against epic voiceover guy.
Well, no, but that's Chairman Kaga's voiceover, because he speaks,
well, yeah.
If he's not talking directly to the camera, it's all in English, and then if he's actually on camera, they left him in Japanese for some reason, but it really works. So they, go into Kitchen Stadium, they, we unveil the Iron Chefs, which he actually says Iron Chefs, even though the direct translation is Iron Men of Cooking. When he says, Iron Chef, it's just Iron Chef! And then they raise out of platforms on the ground with the dry ice smoke going everywhere.
Yes.
Which is stock footage. I don't think they did this every time, but it's so good.
So good.
You see them slowly come out and the music playing in this part is, I think, a Hans Zimmer track that they stole off a movie.
Okay. To put this in context, imagine going to work and every time you go to work, you get an entrance that's usually only reserved for one of Tony Stark's Iron Man suits. Right?
It's... Oh, gosh. I love Iron Chef. So, the 3 chefs are up there. The guys pick who he wants, and then it goes, straight into it. So, they get, in their positions, bang a gong, it is on, everybody's ready. Chairman Kaga, gives a small speech, and is I wanted to pick an ingredient that would fit the appropriateness of our French visitor. Something that he might find at home. "Where the ingredient?" And then the ingredient like is raised on a platform with the dry ice coming off of him, and he pulls off this big red cloth. And it's like the music's like oh oh. It's like bell peppers, but he's not saying it in English. He's saying it in Japanese. And
Yes.
the best one I saw was noodles, because it was like ah da na 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 na. Mem.
I was holding in a laugh for so long.
Mem. M-E-M is like noodles in Japanese, so it's just like all this epic stuff, and then him holding a hand out. Mem. So the two cook, and the cooking just looks so awesome, and just it goes like boom, 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 boom. Like when they hit like the 15-minute mark, it's been like 5. Like it just keeps moving.
Yeah.
But you don't feel like you ever miss anything. Like there's actually too much stuff. And you hear the announcer like has a guy who goes out to the floor with a microphone. He's like asking them questions. They'll come back, which is different how the later Iron Chefs did it, where they show like the chefs talking. When I like this form better, because like the guy's talking like, we don't know what's in that pot on the Challenger side. We don't know what's in this pot. Like the Iron Chef just put like mangoes and salsa in a blender. I don't know what he's gonna do with that. Fukui-san, go ahead. He's like, I asked the Iron Chef, and he's putting grease, fried rabbit skins, and guano inside of the blender. Ooh, I wonder if he's going to make a risotto. And they're so good at pegging what they're going to make, and I am not, because I'm like, he put in bananas and chili peppers and, like, egg. Huh? Oh, it's going to be a custard. Is it? Is that a custard?
Man.
And it just keeps moving. And then when it gets to the judging, how the judging works is you have 4 judges, and Chairman Kaga eats even though he doesn't vote. They try all the dishes. It's usually somewhere between 3 and 5 dishes. They don't really have time for more than that.
Yeah.
They taste all the dishes. They give their feedback, and their judges will be usually like actors, a food critic. Sometimes they'll have like members of Japanese Parliament or the Diet in there. Occasionally a fortune teller. I always thought that lady was out of place and didn't need to be there, but okay. And the judges will vote. And if it's tied 2-2, then it goes to points. And if the points are tied 2-2, it goes into overtime. Brand new secret ingredient. Let's get going.
Shit.
And you can watch all of these on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, type in Iron Chef Japan, and find a playlist and just watch them all. And there's a good reason for this. So, behind the scenes, this is one of the most expensive cooking shows that has ever been made. Between the ridiculous outfits that they had to make a brand new sparkly outfit for Chairman Kaga every week, or every however long they made the show, they made like 300 episodes. So there's 309, I think, outfits like this with like gilded lions on it just floating around in Japan somewhere.
Yes.
So they, between his ridiculous outfits, the ingredients, because they do like truffles, expensive caviar. They did swallows' nests once, which, have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
So it's a bird species that uses saliva to actually make a nest, and they send people into caves and just pick up the nests to like collect them, and then they usually like boil it into a soup, stuff like that.
Yeah. Still not the weirdest ingredient I've seen used in a show.
What's that?
There's this one kind of cheese that... Okay.
The worm cheese.
Is it that?
No, is it? I don't know. You know.
Oh, so I can't remember what the name of this cheese is. I just know that the only way to ferment it properly is to feed it to a special cat and have the cat shit it out.
I thought that was coffee beans. That's Kopi Luwak, isn't it?
It's a special kind of cheese.
Oh, apparently.
Or maybe it is a coffee bean. Either way, they were talking about like preparing something by feeding it to a cat and then collecting the droppings, and I'm just like,
yeah. So that's
nope.
So that's the Kopi Luwak, and what they do is they actually have the animal like go out, and it will naturally just pick the best beans and like ferment it in its stomach, and then they just collect the droppings. They don't actually like just feed the thing coffee.
Okay, so it was the coffee bean.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking cheese.
Who knows? So back to Iron Chef. So behind the scenes, like one of the most expensive shows to ever make. And the reason it's successful in America, or at least the reason I think it's successful in America, is a guy called Bill Brickard. So Bill Brickard was a baseball announcer that they hired to do the voiceover for the show. And that's why it's so good. Because this one dude he was so used to, you observe what's going on, he would read the notes he had, and he would just go 1,000 miles a minute. They didn't try to worry about matching up with lips or anything like that. You would just move. Like, everything just moves so fast, and it's always like, he's throwing this into a blender, and he's frying this, and he's deep frying this, and what do you think? Fukui-san, go, go, go! So he opened up the coconuts, put the monkey brains in time, put them back together, and is now feeding that through the ice cream machine. Oh, sounds like he's going to make a sherbet. What? And, like, this dude was, like, really good at it. And he'd throw, like, baseball references in it and, like, bang a gong, get it on, like, all this, like, stuff to make it his own. And it was, like, 3 or 4 voice actors. And he was the best one. Because like I was saying, Steve is the other one.
Yeah.
And, like, there's a girl who's always like, oh, I wonder what they're going to make there. It could be anything. Let's move on to the next thing. Fukui-san. Oh, yes. So they took printer ink, put it inside of an egg, and are now boiling it. Ah. And it just moves. But it was made so cheaply in America. It's like, it's made cheaper than Power Rangers. Power Rangers, you had to hire actors. You just hired 4 dudes and a microphone for this one. But it was such a successful show, and everybody loved it. So when they had to do, like, music for it, they just stole it from everything. So I'm watching, so there's the 3 main Iron Chefs. Like, you have Chinese, French, and Japan. And then you have a 4th Iron Chef that they brought in, like, a few seasons later, who is Iron Chef Masahiko Kobe, who was 26 years old when he was Iron Chef.
Damn.
Yeah. And when he got lifted on his platform, which was separate from the other platforms, he got lifted with a full orchestra. And, like, the first time they see this, I'm hearing a dun 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 dun, and I'm like, this is from a robot anime. This is, like, it was from Big O. Like, I'm like, I know this. What? So I looked it up. So what they did was they just stole music from everything, from animes, from TV shows, from movies. They didn't care. They just stole it from everywhere. And that's why you'll never see, even though it's a hugely successful show and everybody wants it on DVD, you're never going to see it. Because the copyright issues, they'd have to rescore the entire show, and they're not going to do that.
Right.
So that's why it's all available on YouTube. Go watch it on YouTube guilt-free, because you're not going to get one ever.
Yeah.
Like, the show was so cheaply made, and it was such a successful show. Like, everybody knows Iron Chef. Like,
yes.
The people who grew up with it are like, yeah, Iron Chef. First episode I saw was, as with most things that are, like, good on TV, saw it, like, late at night. So, watching Iron Chef, and it's a battle of Hiroyuki Sakai, who's Iron Chef French, who is the king of Iron Chefs.
Yes.
Versus a Buddhist monk. And he did this, like, extremely restrictive diet to where, like, you couldn't use, like, it was, like, vegan. You couldn't use, like, not any kind of fats. You couldn't use sugar. Don't know why sugar. You couldn't use sugar.
Huh.
And the challenge was yam. And then they did something that they only did on a few seasons, but I loved, was after they reveal the secret ingredient, they would go to, like a flashback by the chairman. So back to, if memory serves me right, I talked to an ancient guru in the high mountains who told me the mountain medicine must be served at room temperature. The mountain medicine referring to the yam, and room temperature because if the gelatinous ingredients are too cold, they will not properly congeal. If they are too warm, it will fall apart and not form properly. And so the mountain medicine must be served at room temperature. Huh. And then it would go back to the show. And this is one of those, like, thank you for that lesson on food, Chairman Kaga. I missed you.
That's awesome.
I love Chairman Kaga. And another thing that they do that I should have mentioned earlier is when they, like, are ready to kick it off, it'll be like, we are about to kick this thing off. Let's go to the chairman right now. And it'll be like, Al cuisine. Al's cuisine for go cook in French.
Nice.
And it's such a good. So Iron Chef was extremely successful in Japan, came over to America, which they did specials in New York, in Beijing, in Paris, and in Hong Kong. And that sounds like one of the funnest times ever. Like, to go, like, sit inside of a stadium and just have a bunch of people, like, just imagine, like, the crowd doing, like, the drum roll thing, and then, like, and the secret ingredient is shrimp, and just hearing 30,000 people just, Oh, that'd be so. That'd be awesome. I don't even have time to talk about my favorite Iron Chefs. I gotta wrap this up in a little bit. But so the show was extremely successful in Japan. Came over to America, was wildly successful here. Went over to like the America made one called Iron Chef USA, which was on UPN back in the day, and the chairman was Will Shatner. It did not last.
It did not.
I think the 3 Iron Chefs they had were Bobby Flay, Mario Batali, and Wolfgang Puck.
Huh.
And it just didn't really last because you don't have, like, this guy's a master. Like, they called Chinkanichi, Iron Chef Chinese, they called him the Szechuan Sage. It's one of those, like, yeah! Bobby Flay doesn't have a cooking style. Bobby's cooking style is Chipotle. And that's not a cooking style. That's, like... It's Southwest and grilling. No, it's not. That's not a cooking style. That's Tex-Mex.
Yeah.
But, so it didn't work. So then they made a second one that was called Iron Chef America, with, the chairman was played by Mark Damascus, who is he's a Chinese actor who became a Buddhist monk who wanted to then become an actor, so he moved to Germany to study acting, and now he lives in America and is the host of Iron Chef. Yeah, I bet you didn't think I'd know that much.
No, I didn't. Damn.
Right? Like, and so when they, like, introduced it for Iron Chef America, like, this guy was sent over here by his uncle, Chairman Kaga, to, like, go study it. And he's not Chairman Kaga's nephew. He's never met the man. It's just, like, how they play out the character.
Damn.
So, and Iron Chef America is pretty good in the first few seasons. After a while, they added in, like, chop-style interview segments. But it's always, like... It would, like, ruin it because it's like, our secret ingredient is, and then they rip off the rags and you see it come up and it's like, buffalo. And then it would go from that, like, intense moment to, like, a, like, interview session where it's one guy going, oh, man, what am I going to do today? Like, and so those, no, dude, like, keep it Iron Chefy. Keep it, like, poppy and succinct. And
yes.
Yeah, it just fell apart there at the end. But I love Iron Chef. Like, go watch the old Iron Chef. Go watch Masahiro Morimoto. He's the Iron Chef that they took from the Japanese version and put him in the American version. And Masahiro Morimoto, before he got picked up, because there was been 3 Iron Chef Japans. There was Rokusaka Nomura, I think. I forget what the second guy's name is, and then Morimoto. And Morimoto actually lived in New York when he got picked up by the show. Born and raised in Japan, but he was living in New York. So his, like, chef's outfit that he wears has, like, the Japanese flag and the American flag on it.
Nice.
And the first time he, like, served him up, like, good sushi. And then, like, he also served him up, like, fish and chips, like, served in, like, paper, like, newspaper print. Like, and then he came back to the States. And Morimoto actually has a, restaurant here in Las Vegas that I would love to go to one day, but it's probably like $400 a plate.
Probably. Bart, there's one thing about Iron Chef that I want you to talk about that you haven't talked about yet.
What?
I want you to talk about the board game.
Let's go. So they released a board game, and how the board game works is you play as one of the 4 Iron Chefs. You have to collect dish cards. If you match 3 dish cards, and you put it down on the table and you claim that as your dish. Your opponents have cards that are like burned cards or like make bad things happen to your dish. But you can only rack up like an appetizer in the first round, or the first like little lap around the board. You can only rack up an entree in the second round around the board. You can only wrap up a dessert around the third trip around the board. The spinner has like a golden Chairman Kaga that like fits into it like a life spinner. and it doesn't work very well because of how high you're twisting it. You're actually like popping it out of the like frame. The cards are cheap. It is a terrible game. It's awfully.
Yes, it's so bad.
It is a terribly designed game. It is awful. We played it for like an hour, and me digging Iron Chef, my brother knowing I dig Iron Chef and buying me the board game, and then when we all play it, we're like, "This is terrible.
This is a bad game.
This is bad."
This makes my brain sad.
And that's how board games were back in the day. If you had a licensed game, it was pretty much terrible.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I only think the only good one from back in the day was like Dune.
Yeah.
That's made by the same guys who made an extremely successful board game called Cosmic Encounter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Iron Chef. Like, go watch it. Like right now, go watch it after this. This is one of the best shows that was ever on TV.
Yeah. All right. So Bart, what's your favorite thing about Iron Chef?
Gosh, you know, Hiroyuki Sakai, Iron Chef French. I love that dude. That dude's awesome.
Nice.
Like, because there was one episode where it's like a former student of his is coming to Kitchen Stadium, and he's like, I don't really want to like do this. And then it shows like when they're in Kitchen Stadium, the dude's family is sitting in the rafters. He's like, come on, man, don't make me do this in front of your family.
Yeah.
Like, you know this is gonna end.
Yeah. So, least favorite thing.
Oh gosh, what is my least favorite thing? The fact that they don't always like show the like the background on the ingredients. Like, you only get that sometimes. It's so they can have more kitchen time, but I love the little background stories of the ingredients because it's always like it goes from just a shot of Kitchen Stadium to like far off in the woods and the smokes and a sunrise. It's like, if memory serves me right. And then him talking about the ingredients. But they don't always do it. It's like, come on, man. Don't go to the battle. I want to know more about whatever it is you're doing. Because they'll use ingredients like sorry. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's a fish. That's all I know. But yeah.
All right. So, who would enjoy Iron Chef?
Anybody who likes game shows, anybody who likes Food Network, like, go watch this. If you like Chopped, go watch Iron Chef. Iron Chef is chopped by like professionals who just went all out. Like, they didn't care about price in the show. They'd just be like, here's $40,000 worth of truffles. Where do you want me to put them?
Yeah, pretty much.
There was a dude who boiled like some ridiculous amount of money worth of lobsters in order to flavor asparagus and then threw the lobster meat out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like good old fashioned 90s like greed.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we're on yours, Pete, what do you love about Injustice?
I love in the comic book, I love how human that they're able to make some of the characters and just like how sympathetic they're able to actually make certain moments to the point where you stop seeing these characters as like, you know, comic book superheroes and you start seeing them as actual people. And that's a pretty amazing moment in any reader's life when, you know, a character stops being a character and starts being a person.
Yeah, when the mask falls away.
Yeah.
Which is odd because it's all about the buildup of putting the mask on.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So strange. So what do you hate about Injustice? What's your least favorite thing?
Okay. So in the video game, specifically Injustice 2, they kept, like, they even made the tagline, "Every battle defines you." So I thought, okay, this will be a thing where, like, there's a lot of alternate endings, and, you know, depending on the choices I make in the game, that will dictate which ending I get. Fucking nope! It comes down to who do you choose, Superman or Batman?
Is it one of those just pure, like, like, Superman and Batman are standing next to you, and they're like, who are you going with, Peter?
They're not standing next to each other, they're about to punch each other.
Oh, gosh.
And, like, it's just a freeze frame, and then you choose.
Lame. They did that in X-Men Destiny. It was lame then.
Yeah, it's just...
So who's, on the lighter side, who's Injustice a good fit for?
So, if you like DC, if you like Elseworlds comics, or Marvel's equivalent of Elseworlds comics. Or if you're just a big fan of posing what-if questions, you'll probably really dig this. If you have a special interest in, like, you know, if you have a fanfic train of thought where you like to basically just mess with characters a little bit, check out Injustice. Just check out how, like, just one tiny change can have a huge, huge impact on an entire universe.
Another good comic that does that is one called The Nail, which is a Justice League of America comic, which the only change in the entire thing is just there was a nail in Mom Pa Kent's truck, so they didn't actually make it out to where Clark's ship crashed. And it is fantastic. Damn. Yeah,
that is cool.
Everything changes. It's really good. So that's about it for us this week. They could do OK Go for the use of their song Here It Goes Again off the album Oh No. You know them, you don't know us. You can catch me on Twitter at BPanelComic.
You can catch me on Twitter at PeterKennyArt.
And Pete, what are you going to do next week?
No idea.
Really?
Nope.
Oh,
this week has been crazy for me, so planning is not happening.
Yeah. So mine is going to be a book called Job, A Comedy of Errors, which is a Robert Heinlein book.
Nice.
Robert Heinlein's a fantastic author. He did Stranger in a Strange Land. He did Citizen of the Galaxy. He did fantastic books. I love Robert Heinlein. I was actually going to be named after Robert Heinlein back when I was a kid, but that has nothing to do with this.
Didn't he also do Starship Troopers?
He did.
Yes.
It's on the Navy and Marine Corps reading list.
Yes.
It's a fantastic book. But yeah, I'm doing one called Job, A Comedy of the Errors. And just to set up for next week, so the opening of the book, the guy is on like a Pacific island watching a firewalk, and he's like, well, yeah, anybody can do it because it's just like the coals like aren't hot enough for like just how it works. It cools off your feet to where they won't burn. And the guys who are in front of him are like, oh yeah, why don't you do it? So he walks across the coals, passes out on like the way across. When he gets to people wake him up, and the guys who like set up the firewalk, they're like, you okay, man? All right, good stuff. Like, you were really brave going out there. He's like, okay. He goes back to the cruise ship he was on. It is a completely different ship. Still named, still the USS whatever, but it's a completely different ship. It is a fantastic book. I love it. I hope I'll actually get to read it before next week. But that's it for me. Any last words from you, Pete?
No. Well, okay. So, a lot of crazy shit has been happening in rapid succession. So, here's our plug. Please, like, donate whatever you can. Money, supplies, or just time and energy, and help the victims of the Las Vegas shooting. Or Puerto Rico, or it just anywhere. It's pretty much all getting kind of terrible. So be nice out there.
Yeah.
Help each other.
For those of you who don't know, me and Pete, we're Las Vegas natives. I'm actually in Las Vegas right now. Pete's over there in San Diego. And yeah, take care of each other, folks.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for us this week. We'll see you next time.
We're going to leave it on that. Sorry, folks. I wish
that was way more depressing than I meant it to be. I'm sorry.
Go eat some Sponch, folks. That's what I'm about to do.
Yeah, bye, Sponch.
Bye, Sponch.